fine motor difficulties or balance difficulties, sitting on a toilet with dynamic balance, those are actually really, really significant things that we need to consider. But do we talk about them, and do we talk about how they manage them? Any thoughts on that?
So some people have said previously it wasn't something that I did. Other people saying no, they don't. That's not really what they talk about. I don't think I would. Well, working with younger people, generally when they're in hospital, it's a sort of as an OT, you'd be talking about how they manage. I would be talking about how they manage physically, but not so much about their pain or their gynecological issues. There's more people typing.
Okay. I'll wait a minute before I go on to the next question. Tell you what, I'll move on and then we can catch up with the chat. And lastly, do we talk about sex enough? Do we talk about the therapeutic benefits of sex? There are health benefits. There's physical benefits. There's mental health, emotional benefits, relationship benefits, and there's benefits with things like our sleep. Our melatonin helps us aid sleep. The oxytocin in our body, helps contract our womb back as it would when we give birth. And actually, as a method of pain relief, sex can be useful. But do we talk about those things? How comfortable are we as professionals to talk about sex?
So going back to the previous question, I think people have said they've never gone into the period pain much, and they wish that they had a conversation with the service user today, and I wish I had. They said. Somebody else is saying we discussed period pain with young women, and we provide info on products and the products themselves. They don't talk about sex, but young women want to know. I think that's about that's the response to sex. And then somebody else saying this is a great challenge to my practice. I never talk about health benefits of sex. I only go on to the problems people are having with it.
I know. And I think it is a subject that we, feels a bit uncomfortable talking about. And I remember stroke setting, and it was put on the initial assessment that we then had to suddenly start talking about sex, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. But a few years on, after the more I talk about it now, the easier it is. And it's like anything, it just becomes easier. I think the more comfortable we are, the more we put people at ease that it's okay to talk about it. Okay, so just going back to sex and the pain relief that actually, the hormonal changes can provide us. I just wanted to screenshot here. This is our NHS website here, and it talks about periods and what periods are, what causes period pain, and how to ease it. And you will notice there is nothing there talking about sex. Nothing there talking about the hormonal benefits of sex. I think as one of the things going forward from today, that's something I would love to see us as professionals, as the NHS service, talking about it more. Talking about these therapeutic benefits of sex and actually having it as part of our advice. Well, actually, have you tried it? Actually, if nothing else, it's a great distraction from period pain. So, that would be one of my aims, to see us talking about it more. Okay, so we're going to go on to a little bit more lighthearted now. We're going to do an anatomy and physiology recap. So I hope you've got your student brains on, remembering it all. I'm giving this one easy for you. So I'm giving you this one. So this is just the warm up. So I'm sure you all know this. These are just the basics here. But the next one's going to be a bit more challenging. So in the chat, we're going to try and name what these all are. So let's go through one by one. Please don't worry about this. I'm not giving you any points if you get this right or wrong. And I confess I did not get 8 out of 8 the first time I did it. Okay, so number 1, I want you all to say what you think number 1 is on that list, which I think is actually one of the hardest out of the whole list, by the way. So don't be afraid. What is number 1? And then Jackie, you'll have to tell me what the consensus is.
Looks like Jackie's typing, but people have put in mons pubis.
Sorry, I put myself on mute, but yes, people have. Not helpful.
Okay,
Thanks,
all right.
Katrina.
Number 2. I'll give you the answers at the end, don't worry.
Urethra. Urethra is the consensus.
Consensus, okay. 3. 3 and 4 go together, so that's a clue. Not that you guys need it by the sounds of it.
So 3 is outer labia.
Yep.
And 4 inner labia.
Yep. Okay, so number 5.
Clitoris. Yes, got
okay.
People know where the clitoris is. That's good.
Jolly good. Number 6.
And we've got the general consensus that it's the vaginal opening.
Okie doke. Number 7. Now, number 7 confused me because I thought it was pointing to the leg. It is not the leg. I'll give you that clue. Number 7 is the overall pointing to the whole area. So that will help you know what that means.
Vulva. We've got lots of people putting vulva.
Okay. And number 8, the last but not least.
And last but not least. Anus. We've got people saying anus. So it sounds like everybody's.
You did very well. I'm very impressed with your anatomy there. And one of the reasons we do this, I do this when I talk to people, is because it is one of, I suppose, my aims is that we are more comfortable talking about our bodies. And it's something I teach my children from a really early age. You know, we shouldn't be ashamed of it. This shouldn't be taboo. It's just anatomy. And periods, again, are just something that is completely natural. And I feel like it's something that we need to all be more comfortable talking about. So our clients are more comfortable, you know, the next generation of children that are brought up are more comfortable talking about these things. So that's why we just kind of, I try and do this as much as I can with people. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about menstrual cycle awareness. I'm really interested actually in the chat if any of you do this or have heard of it or talk about it with clients. I feel like this is something that is becoming more, people are becoming more aware of it, I think, or whether it's just my circle of people I know. But menstrual cycle awareness is, I would describe it as a way of becoming truly aware of our cycle and its impact on our well-being. So I don't mean knowing that my cycle is 28 days. I mean, that is part of it, but menstrual cycle awareness is really truly tuning into your body and understanding the changes that go through that month, the hormonal changes, and how those hormonal changes can have an impact on, you know, lots of things around our health. So our physical health can be impacted by energy levels, fatigue, or other times of months where we have lots of energy. It might impact things like our libido as well. The menstrual cycle awareness can help you tune into your mood. Perhaps you're more anxious at other times of the month, patient, less patient, definitely for me, premenstrually. And really tuning into your body changes. What sensations do you have? Oh, I think, you know, becoming aware of, I think I'm ovulated because I can feel this and I can feel that. And so menstrual cycle awareness is really tuning into your cycle. And that means every day of the cycle. That doesn't mean just when you're bleeding, for example.
So some people have put, some people have put in the chat about yes, they're being aware of it, and somebody else said I often have to link the impact on migraines for myself.
Yes, so major. So many people have that hormone related migraines. Yeah. So menstrual cycle awareness is really good for when you're trying to learn about yourself. I've been doing it for about 2 or 3 years now, and it's been it's probably one of the most useful life skills I have learnt for myself, as well as educating my children. I've got 3 girls, and also my partner. Like, really useful for partners to understand, you know, you're not just being difficult, it's just a really difficult day for you emotionally. And so it would be just about journaling however you wanted to write, whether that was keywords, whether you wanted to write bullet points, however you want to journal it. There's apps, really useful to do over a 6 to 12 month period of time, and look for patterns. And when you see those patterns, it can be like an aha moment, like, wow, I can't believe I didn't realize that on day X, for example, you know, I'm so exhausted. Once you have that knowledge, it's really powerful, because you can actually adapt your life to a certain extent depending on your own situation for that. So I know for certain days or weeks of the month, I just don't have the energy for long walks with my partner, or badminton or dancing that I like to do. Those weeks are just going to be a write-off. I just want to sit in front of the TV. There's definitely weeks where I'm more social and I want to see people, compared to other times where I just don't want to see anyone. And once you have that knowledge, it's really, really powerful in supporting your well-being. So really, yeah, if there are books out there as well, by the way, great books to read, and lots of people out there that have lots and lots of knowledge to share about menstrual cycle awareness. So do look into that if you're interested. Anything else to say about that, Jackie, or should I move on?
There's not much. There's nothing else in the chat.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to this slide now. This might be old news to you. It was shocking when I heard it. So some of our products, traditional disposable period products, can have up to 3,000 chemicals in them, which is just, I think, a ridiculous amount. It's going on our skin, our most delicate part of our body. You know, the skin is so thin and fragile, let alone things like tampons that are going physically in our body with these chemicals on them. And these can contain synthetic fragrances, they can contain allergens, carcinogens, irritants, as well as endocrine disrupting chemicals. As well as, if you think about the cotton that is used, those will traditionally be grown in a traditional cotton field with pesticides. And those pesticides are on our products, and we're putting that on or in our bodies. And as I'm sure you could think, just, you know, just when you think of it like that, you kind of, for me, it was like thinking, oh, how do I not know this? How has nobody ever told me this before? And this is why I'm passionate about spreading this information, so we can educate people around us. You know, I believe in informed consent and informed choices. And if we are only taught and we are only provided options on supermarket shelves, or we're only taught in school about disposable options, and we're not being told about the risks, then we're not having informed choice. So I believe it's up to anybody what they use on their body, but let's tell people the information and the risks and the benefits of different products, which we're going to go into a bit more later, so they can decide whether they want those 3,000 chemicals in their body. So what do you think about that? How are you feeling about that fact? Is that something you already knew? Is this new to you, new news? Interested to know. Anybody got anything to say about that one?
People
Jackie?
are typing at the moment.
Oh, they're typing.
They're
okay.
Typing. I know I did. I know people are often really shocked by the amount of chemicals that there are in the period products, and that it isn't mandatory to put it onto the packaging.
No, it's not.
That's a really shocking thing.
So yeah, things like
some people saying they didn't think about the chemicals, only the landfill implications.
Yeah, you're right. That is the first thing that people tend to think about, isn't it? The landfill. Yeah. The interesting thing about you said there, Jackie, about the packaging is, if it was skincare we were buying, you know, face cream or soap, the law says they have to publicise the ingredients. But with period products, there's no legislation to say that what the ingredients has to be documented. And to be fair, even if they did, we wouldn't understand what it all was, because of, you know, the terminology used. But there's no legislation to say that they need to document it on the box, what they're using. So this knowledge isn't promoted anyway. We're not told about it. So that's what I mean. It's just not informed choice.
When somebody's saying we really lean into planet and body friendly and sustainable products, I didn't realize there were so many chemicals. And somebody was saying, I'm wondering if the same applies to nappies, thinking about my toddler.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, don't forget as well, in these products, they're not just cotton as well. They're made up, you know, predominantly of plastic as well. So a lot of them will contain microplastics, which I'll talk about in a minute about the environmental impact. But, you know, do we want microplastics in our vagina as well? You know, all these implications. And when we think about it, when we think about these chemicals, it makes sense that these could be impacting our health. You know, they could be having an impact on our bodies, you know, fertility, gynecological issues, those kind of things. So this is from the NHS website, and it talks about, again, the causes of period pain. At the moment, there's no acknowledgement that any period product choices as such have any impact on period pain, other than it mentions the risks regarding toxic shock syndrome. There's no other mention, and traditionally it's not something that is discussed about toxins could be part of pain as well. But there is a growing evidence showing that these chemicals could be having an impact on gynecological conditions. And you know, one of the things that I would like to see would be that this topic is researched more, and that menstruating people have all the facts to make the choices, and that, you know, the research is publicised openly through, you know, the healthcare system recognises this. At the moment, as you know, as we've found out today, this is not something that has been widely discussed. So I would like to see more around that in the future, and hopefully people are, you know, given those informed choices. Okay, any questions on that bit, or any other comments about that before I move on to the environmental impact?
There's no more questions in the chat.
Okie doke. So environmental impact, you're right, this is one of the things we think about, isn't it? You know, when we're conscious, we think about the landfill of the products we use, and perhaps, you know, the chemicals are not something we've necessarily thought about, but the environmental impact is huge, and we're right to be worrying about it. So has anybody got any idea of how many disposable period products are used in one person's life? So one menstruating person, how much disposable period products would they use in their life? Anyone want to just hazard a guess in the chat?
People are typing. I no,
I can never remember the fact, but every time I see it, I'm like, oh, it's not good.
So we've got 5,000, 50 kilograms.
Okay.
1 million.
This is per person. I'd like to think
per person. This is per person. 3,000. So there's a few
okay.
things coming up.
I mean, so this is the average. Obviously, not everyone's different, but the average is 11,000 per person in the UK. So over 1 year, just in the UK, it's 200,000 tons of waste. So
wow,
you know, it's a lot, isn't it? Considering when you think of the size of the UK compared to the rest of the world, obviously not all countries would be using disposables, but you know, a large majority of them are. So you know, 11,000 times, you know, 4 billion women that there are in the world, for example, menstruating people, you know, it adds up. It's quite significant. Plastic waste kills 1 million seabirds per year, 100,000 sea mammals, turtles and fish. So it's pretty devastating. So there is, I often hear about how things take X amount of years or 100 years to break down. But there is a debate whether actually plastic and microplastic ever really break down. Do they ever really decompose? I mean, we've not been using plastic for long enough to know. We might know in 500 years, but there's a theory that they never break down, they never decompose. They actually just break up into smaller pieces of microplastics. You might have seen this already with certain plastic bags do it, you know, they just break into smaller pieces. So they become fragile and they become crumbly, that kind of thing. It doesn't mean that they, you know, biodegrade as such into the soil. So just something to think about with when people say, oh, don't worry, it'll break down in landfill. Well, it may never break down, and also the conditions in landfill where there's no oxygen, you know, it's not really a biodegradable environment for things to break down. So there can be up to 90% plastic in one pad. So yeah, they have cotton in them. We've talked about the pesticides in the cotton fields, for example, but they are predominantly plastic. And an interesting fact, which I have double checked because I couldn't believe it, and actually I'll quiz you on this one. So in a tampon, one tampon, although it has cotton in it, and we used to think it was okay to flush them, which I'll talk about in a minute, because we thought it was just cotton and it'll break down. It isn't just cotton. It has a significant amount of microplastic in it. Can you guess how many microplastic pieces there are in a tampon? So how many microplastic pieces would be shed from one tampon? Have a guess. Thinking. What are we thinking?
Some people are saying that people are typing. I don't really know how big a microplastic is.
Well, microplastic, I think they say, I think it's classed as 1 millimeter or less. So it could be tiny. It could be microscopic as well.
So people have put 500,000, 10,000, 2 million. So there's a variety.
Well, the 2 million is closer.
3 million, 30 million, no idea.
Okay, no, I know. So if you imagine that they're really, really tiny, as I said, some of them are so tiny you wouldn't be able to visibly see it, but it's individual microplastic pieces, 9.4 billion.
Billion?
Billion. So, you know, it's quite a lot, isn't it? And because I didn't believe it, I remember checking it a few months ago, and it was just yeah, shocking. So lots of plastic and microplastics in our products. So when it comes to these products, I was taught at school that it was okay to flush a tampon because it was just cotton. That's what I was told. It was just cotton. But that is not the case. We are now understanding that they do contain microplastics, and they do not just break down in the toilet. They block, you know, they block toilets, they block the sewers, for example. So has anyone else want to admit to flushing them at some point in their lives? Because it's okay. 41% of women in the UK have admitted to flushing period products down the toilet.
I used to.
Yeah. I was told the pad had to go in a bin and the tampon could go down the toilet. And that's what I was taught at school, and that's what I believed probably up until recently, up until my late 30s. I thought that was acceptable. Anyone else want to admit? Is it just you and me, Jackie?
No, other people have put their hands up. Everybody said
okay,
yes.
good,
Me too.
Okay.
Until it blocked the toilets and was too painful to dig out.
Oh yes. So period products make up 11% of all sewage related debris here. So we need to again educate people on this. No flushing down the toilets. The only things to flush are the 3 P's: pee, poo and paper. Now you do see things that say wipes that are flushable. I personally will never flush a wipe, even if it says flushable, because in my mind it may biodegrade, it may dissolve, but you don't know how long it takes for that to happen, and it could block your toilet immediately. You know, it might take X amount of days to break down, but in the meantime, before it gets to the stage, it could already block sewers in your toilet. And also I've heard as well in other countries, say the United States, they might say something is flushable, but their rules and their laws and their sewage systems are different to here in the UK. So just as a rule of thumb, no flushing, anything like that.
Somebody else has said wipes are never flushable. They create massive poo bergs in sewage.
Poo bergs. I know, and this is what's so frustrating, is that, you know, some of them are advertised as flushable now. And obviously, you know, we believe them. It says flushable. Surely that must mean they're completely flushable, completely okay. But yeah, it's still best never to flush them, even if they say flushable. Okay, so what you can see here is all the lovely tampon applicators that have ended up on our beaches. So the government has published a plan to work with water companies and regulators to stop the harm caused by raw sewage from storm overflows as part of the Environmental Act 2021. So again, I've learned this only very recently, really, that during wet weather, especially heavy rain, heavy sudden downpours, the sewer network can be overwhelmed. So to prevent it from flooding the sewers, untreated sewage is discharged into waterways or sea. So if it's untreated, if we've put our tampons and our pads and our flushable wipes in them, that then gets discharged into the sea. I live near Southend, and there are often warnings, don't swim in the water at the moment because raw sewage has been let out into it. And while these mainly occur when the sewage system cannot cope with the excessive loads, misuse of the sewer systems, like we just talked about, is causing a big problem. So the risk to environment, human health and animal health as well is significant. I don't know if anyone's experienced that, but one of the reasons I don't enjoy sea swimming is because I just can't bear the idea of what is going to be in there, to be honest. Okay, any thoughts on that? And then I'm going to move on to period product choices in a moment. Anything else there? No? Okay.
It's quite horrifying, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Yeah, absolutely. It really is.
I'm going to give you a 10-minute warning, Sam. Sorry.
Oh, is it that?
Because I've got another meeting at 7. I've got to log off. So.
Okay, thank you. I will try and whiz through. Okay, so period product choices. These are a variety of options. Okay, you may be familiar with some and not less familiar with others, for example. Should I whiz through them, or would you guys like to specifically ask me about some? You might already know about certain ones, for example. I'm just thinking of time. What would people like me to do?
Somebody said they've never heard of labia pads.
Yeah. Okay, so labia pads, I've not personally used them. From my understanding is they are really, really helpful for people who have sudden gushes of blood or very heavy moments. And it's almost used as an extra layer. So you roll them up and then you put them in your labia area, and it will help absorb some of that excess. So can be useful for people that can't get to the toilet constantly if they're really heavy and they can't get to the toilet regularly enough to kind of change a pad or whatever it is they're using. It's almost like an extra. So it's almost like an extra piece to help with the flow and to help any sudden gushes. It directs the blood towards the middle of the gusset of the pants, from what I understand. So
other people are asking about reusable tampons and menstrual disc as well.
Okay, yeah, they're the key ones that people like to know. Okay, so the reusable tampons, I have some that are made of organic cotton. So for me, if I use a tampon, which I don't very often, I don't want there to be pesticides in it and all those chemicals we talked about. So don't forget that you can still have chemicals on reusables as well. There will be less of them predominantly than a disposable, but for me, organic would be would be vital. So it'd be material, cotton traditionally, and you would just roll it up into the shape of a tampon and you would use it as normal. You can use them with a reusable applicator as well. So the Dame is a really good one, applicator, reusable one, because any size tampon can be used in it. It's not brand specific. So you could use a reusable applicator with a traditional disposable tampon, or the reusable ones there. As long as you roll it up tight, they can be used as well. Reusable applicators are really good for saving money longer term, because even if you wanted to use disposables, which there are some really better branded disposables like organic ones that don't have any chemicals in them, for example. If you bought the tampons without the applicators, then you've reduced the carbon footprint already by not having to buy ones with an applicator, but you're also going to save money longer term as well by using the reusable one. Menstrual disc is an alternative to a menstrual cup, but it is, I'm going to show you a picture in a second, it positions slightly differently. So a menstrual cup would sit in the vaginal canal. The menstrual disc sits right under the cervix, right up high enough that you can still have sexual intercourse with it. So that's how high it is. It seems to be the up and coming thing at the moment. 5 years ago, I'd never heard of it. 2 or 3 years ago, I think there was like a couple on the market. There are more on the market now. So this is one of the latest things. So yeah, just be aware of that. That's a new thing. Is everyone covered pants and pads and menstrual cups, or anything you want to ask me specifically about them?
There's quite a bit of typing going on.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I can always come back to stuff if we've got time at the end. Just a quick overview of different carbon footprints of different products. You can see on the left, menstrual cups have the lowest carbon footprint of any of them. Obviously, the ones on the left are the reusable ones compared to the disposables on the right side. But the cups are
sorry, somebody's just sorry to interrupt you.
No,
somebody's just asking about, with the menstrual disc, how do you take it out?
This picture then here shows you the difference in where they are positioned. You take it out in the same way, but a menstrual cup, I confess, is less messy because it's like a wine glass, you know, and it's all kind of balanced in there quite nicely. The disc is shallower. So when you take it out, it comes out at a slightly different angle. As you can see, you've almost got to slide it out. But when you slide it out, it is slightly sideways when you bring it out. So it is messier. So if, you know, some people obviously are not huge fans of, you know, getting blood on them, for example. And obviously you've got to think about toilets, where you are, where your clients are at the time where they're changing. So it is a little bit messier. Yeah, but the position is completely different. So for example, if you have a client that has prolapse, for example, or just weak pelvic floor muscles, things like cups are quite difficult to stay in place. Whereas the disc, because it fits so high up and it sits on the bone and it sits right up high in the cervix, it's a completely different positioning. So yeah, really useful to know the difference really in both of them. I'm going to whiz past that. Caring for the pants and pads is just normal washing, cool washing ideally, or no higher than 40. Recommendations are not to use fabric conditioner and not to use a tumble dryer. So really just like to care for them and look after them and nurture your pants and your pads really. Line dry them, for example. They can be washed with all your other washing. Some people prefer to rinse them in the washing machine first on a rinse cycle, or just rinse them under the tap. I even use them in the shower when the shower's warming up and it's cold water. I rinse them in the shower to use the water. So yeah, that's just a quick overview of that. There are adaptive pants as well, so you can get pants that do up at the side. So if you've got somebody who has difficulty with bending, for example, with a balance to lean forward and put pants on, there are ones that do up the side as well. There are ones that also for younger people, the growing bodies, that grow with you. So if you think about somebody perhaps that doesn't like change, you know, the idea of that growth with growth spurt and every 6 months they need a whole new load of period pants, but that change is really distressing. There are ones out there, the pants that grow with them, so they can keep them for a lot longer period of time. It isn't just about periods either. A lot of the products can be used as incontinence as well, but there are also brands out there. Cheeky Wipes is one that I think of offhand that has a separate incontinence range as well. So these can be for children, for adults, you know, all genders, for example, as well. So really think about that if you've got clients with some incontinence. From so far, I haven't found anything that deals with any severe incontinence. It would be mild to moderate urinary incontinence that these hold, that I know of so far anyway. Also, thank goodness, people are now recognising that just because you're in the period doesn't mean you want to stop living. You know, we want to go swimming still, and we want to have options, and it used to be tampon or nothing. There are now swimwear, there is gym wear, there is all these different things that we can now have to empower us to live our lives and enjoy our hobbies still, you know, engage in those activities of daily living that are important to us, whether we're on our period or not. And then I will leave you with this really, and thinking about what do I hope for the future? Where do I see our growth really on this? Well, I want us all to feel more comfortable talking about periods, talking about sex, gynecological issues, to be more open about these subjects. I hope that schools provide a full overview of product options to allow a fully informed choice to both children and their parents as well, which I think is really important. And I hope for more evidence is produced, more is researched, and that is communicated to people about the impacts of sex on period pain, and about the toxic implications of our health as well. And I hope that period products become, the reusable period products become normal again, like they were. You know, our grandparents would have used scraps of material, and we've gone into this disposable era, and I hope that we get back to reusables being normal again. And I hope that health equality is for all. And that is it from me. I'll quickly rush those last few slides. Tons of references obviously can be sent out. And if you want to connect with me, this is me. You can find me here in these places, and do come and join in my my EcoEssex kind of community, and come and link with me if you want to talk about anything periods and sex and women's health. Then I'm interested to chat. And that is me.
Thank you so much, Sam. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rush you. I'm going to stop recording now, and people can put their cameras on. There's a few people have left actually. I think again, time-wise, it's not so it's difficult time of the evening.
Yes.